All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Manny. Happy holidays. And I'm going to just run you through my morning mixing session. Got a fresh cup of coffee that I didn't put sugar in. Can worry about that later. But I have a track here. I'm working with an artist named Damani. The song's called Mr. Right. It's a cool pop record. And I've already spent some time on it, but I wanted to kind of go over just how I take these tracks to the next level. It's pretty decent, rough mix going on now. As you can see over here, I have some plugins there. It's all bust out through my chain here. Have some effects and some processing going on. So I'll play you this version. In my experience, most people kind of stop there. So I'm going to show you just a couple of the things that I do to take it to the next level, and hopefully it'll improve your mixes as well. So here it is, Mr. Right.
Bet you didn't think I'd be singing this song right now, did you? Think I wouldn't get back up from years of being put down, mister? Said all the right things 1% of the time, but what about the other 99?
So as you can see, or hear rather, the vocal sounds pretty good. Have some effects over here. I have the auto-tune effects going on. It's in the key of E minor. I have a vocal compressor here with a little bit of gate going on over there. I've EQ'd this. This is kind of Damani's go-to EQ, where I take out a lot of the low end, take out some of the mid, just because I'm recording at my home and mixing. So this reduces some of the just background noise. And then one of my tricks is I like to bring up the highs a little bit, just to separate the vocal from the track. In fact, I should probably save this as her setting. Save setting as, and I'm gonna say this is Damani set box. I'm gonna save that. So now when I go over here, I will always have Damani's. So I know to go there. That makes it easy. Okay, what else do I have on here? This track was sent to me by one of the producers I manage, and it was already compressed. It was already really pushed. As you can see, I'll bring it out here. It's already, pretty squashed as far as compression in there. So there wasn't a lot I could do to it. In fact, I had to reduce it with this SSL EQ. If I solo this track, I took out some of the low and reduced some of the highs to contrast the vocal. So let me go here. Have a couple other buses, but you'll see in this vocal comp here that I've already comped the vocal, so I've already taken the best takes. Open that up here. Out of all these takes, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've kind of mixed and matched all the comps. Get that out of there. So what I have is what I feel is a really good vocal. So I'll play that for you real quick.
Bet you didn't think I'd be singing this song right now, did you? Think I wouldn't get back up from years of being put down, mister? Said all the right things 1% of the time, but what about the other 99?
Okay, so you can hear a little bit of background noise in there. I could take that out there. Cool, that's better. Okay, so it's a pretty pretty decent mix for me. I'm no mixing engineer or claim to be a guru with this stuff, but I've learned some great techniques over the years. So I'd like to share those for you in the holiday spirit. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I always recommend doing this, is I'm going to save a new version. So I'm going to save as. That way this is all safe and sound, and everything I do is going to be manipulated in the new session. So this is Damani, Mr. Right, and I'm going to call it Consolidated. Consolidated. And today is 12/20/17. And there. All right, so now we have a new session. And this is all the lead, all this top portion here. I separate it with an auxiliary just so I know that this is a lot of the backgrounds and harmonies I have down here. Those can typically stay the same just because they're doubled and tripled and panned, and they already sound really nice. So I'm gonna mess with this lead vocal, and so what I'm gonna start to do is, first thing I'm gonna do is get a new track, Shift Apple N. I'm gonna do a new mono track. Open it up a little bit, and I'm gonna call this lead consolidated. We'll just say lead period. Boom. And I'm gonna start taking these files, and I'm gonna hold down Option, and I'm gonna drag a new clip up, and I'm gonna just go through and start doing that on all of these takes. Boom, boom, boom. This is pretty close, so I have to. By the way, when you're in the grid, if you hold down Command, you can bypass the grid. So I'm gonna hold down Command here. Boom. Drag that down, and basically we're making copies of everything onto the new track. That way everything else is still there. Okay, so I have that. Drag this up. We have plenty of room for that. Gets tricky once you're on these lower tracks here. Whoops. Drag that up. All right, we're almost there. And I'm going to hold down Command, slide this over. This looks like it might overlap a little bit, but I'll crossfade that. Bring that down. Let me open this up here. And I'm just going to bring this out a little bit and crossfade it there. So that should sound nice. And again, I have all the original track there still. So if something goes wrong, it's nice and saved in the other session. Okay, last but not least, let's take this little bridge section, and we're going to make a copy, drag that straight up. All right, now I've already taken the time to just make sure that the acapella, there's no overlapping, especially with this comp, so everything kind of is nice and smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and consolidate this. So I'm going to drag this over here just like this, edit, and consolidate clip. Now I have one nice consolidated track. Second thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go Apple Shift N. I'm going to create a new stereo track. Create. And I'm going to do the same thing I did with the vocals, but I'm going to do it with the track. Drag that down here. And once that populates, oh, that no sugar is killing me. Actually, I use stevia, so. Okay, consolidate this. Consolidate clip. Okay, now I have the track. which I'll name, and I have a consolidated vocal. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to highlight both of them. I'm going to go Apple Shift K, which is export. And I'm going to save this to my desktop just so I know where it's at. That's a big no-no, but it works for me sometimes. And I'm going to call this Damani Mr. Right Stem. So, okay, so we'll say stems. Actually, I shouldn't name it stems because that could confuse me later down the road. So I'm going to say stems for Melodyne. And create. And I'm going to put these two folders, two WAV files in there. Export. It's a process. I'm sure my phone's going off somewhere. Boom. Okay, and I'll save this. And I can drag these up here. Keep them separate from the track for now. Okay, so save that, minimize this, and we're in a brand new session here. Okay, down here I have Melodyne. It's already open. But why is there already a folder open? Okay, let me do a new arrangement. And I'm going to import audio file. Desktop. Stems for Mellow. And so a lot of people use Melodyne, but they don't import the track. I prefer to listen to the track just so sonically I really know what I'm dealing with. There's no guessing in the game. All right, that one's in. And that one's in. Okay, now we're in a program called Melodyne. Pitch corrector. Okay, so first thing I normally do is I'm going to go back to this session here, and it looks like it's 100 BPM, and the key is E minor. So E minor. Okay, so let's get out of here. Go here. I'm going to go to the transport bar. It was 100 BPM. I want the grid to match up. And then I'm going to go to my mixer. I'm going to turn down the track just a little bit so I can focus on the vocal. And then last but not least, I'm going to quantize the time to 32 notes. And I'm going to go, okay. Okay, so now when I open the vocal, boom, slide this over here. I have lots of grid. I know what I'm dealing with. Okay, so down here on the right bottom corner, waves or mountains, I like to call them. I like to see it pretty big. And the first thing I usually do in working with the vocal, right click, hold it down, and I go to note separation. Sometimes Melodyne won't separate your notes. For example, right here, possibly right here. So I just go through and just start chopping. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. Just all depends. Let's see. That maybe. Yep. Why not? This looks like 3 different notes, or it could be vibrato. Actually, why not? Why don't we just do that? Sometimes it's easier. It takes a little bit more work, but in the long run, in my experience, it sounds better. Okay. What is this? That's going to be weird. Just going through, chopping this stuff up into little pieces. And I mean, it takes time. You know, that's why when you're working with people, you have to know what you're getting into. Singing wise. Because even if the singer's amazing, it's still gonna take lots and lots of time. To make it radio ready. And that's what we're doing. Little tiny pieces. We're about halfway there. I'll show you some other tricks. Whoops, I skipped a bunch. So basically, Melodyne puts these notes where it thinks they belong. And honestly, that's usually, for the most part, pretty correct. But there's usually, I don't know, 3 or 4 different notes that it goofs up on. Just because it's putting stuff, it's placing stuff based on where the vocal was. So right here, obviously this is between A sharp and B, and it was right in the middle there. So we split that up into 2 notes. All right. Whoops. Did it again. What's up there? Nothing. Boom. Boom. That looks pretty good. Boom, boom, boom. I'll split that up. I don't know what this is, but that'll be interesting when we come back to it. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the beginning. Actually, I'm just going to go down here. Boom. Go back to my select tool and Command Apple P. It's going to put those right into pitch. And I like to come down to about 95. All right, let's take a listen.
That you didn't think I'd be singing this song right now, did you? That you didn't think I'd be singing this song right now, did you?
The E, that's Damani. Damoni. The K, if you want to follow her. So it's just a matter of personal preference. There's obviously a bunch of different places we could take it. I'm just trying to find out what just feels the most natural. See, I could bring this up here. No. could bring this up just a little bit. There we go. See, this one here was probably just a little bit flat, but it was closer to A sharp than it was to B, so Melodyne naturally dropped it down. So we got to pick it back up. And the way I can usually tell that is if I go to this drift here, you see how it's going up here and then kind of swirling down. It just thought that it was should have been in A. So it doesn't know the key signature. But this I could probably make sound a little bit better if I move the note down to A. Let's see how that sounds. Yeah, sounds a little bit more natural. All right, I'm going to bring this up a little bit. And again, if you're more familiar with theory, then this is going to be a lot quicker for you. I just, know it through experience, and certain keys are easier for me to look at on the grid here. But I always like to just double check just to. And again, just because it's in the right, key doesn't mean that that's where the note should be. It could be, if it's in the E and you want to move it somewhere else, that's fine too. As long as it's in the key signature. No, but not that. No, let's drag this down here. Keep it simple. All right, let's listen. I wouldn't get back up to years of being put down, mister. Said all the right things 1% of the time. But what about the other 99? The other 99. Alright, so I'm going to work on the rest of this and come back to you guys in just a few when I have a nice clean vocal. Okay, I'm back. And I worked on this lead vocal. And I'll show you a couple things I do just to finalize it before I export it back into Pro Tools. But this is how it sounds now. That you told me, that you played, and what about my heart you decided to break? Okay, so I have that, and one of the last things that I like to do in Melodyne is I will select everything, come over here, select all, and I'll go to my edit pitch modulation. And I'll just kind of squeeze everything just a little bit more into the note. You have to be careful with this because it'll start to sound robotic or like the auto-tune effect if you don't. But I do this just so it just kind of squeezes everything into the proper notes that are already corrected. So just to give it that much more clarity. And so I usually run through like the first verse just to make sure nothing moved too much or out of key. Okay, sounding pretty good, and that's just a raw clean vocal. So when we export it back into the Pro Tools session, it should sound really nice. Okay, so going to save the arrangement first and foremost, so I have it. I can always come back to it. Then I'm going to click Save Audio. And what I want to do here is save each track as a single file. I don't necessarily need this 2-track, so I'm actually not going to save that one. And then I'm going to save as. Let's make a new folder just so we know where it's at. And we're going to call this corrected lead. Create. Let me see where this is at. Tamani, Mr. Right, corrected lead. Okay, and let's go ahead and click save. It's going to export that there. I will minimize this because I don't know if I have to come back to it yet. Open up my Pro Tools session, scroll to the bottom here, and let's see, this is it here? Yep. And there's our corrected lead. Let's drag that in here. I'm gonna come back here. I'm gonna drag this I think I'll drag it right there. Pull it back here. Where's our last consolidated track? Here it is. So let's mute that. And I'm going to name this lead new mellow. Save. And just so we know which one it is, I'm going to change the color grid to pink. Okay, so now what I can do, I'm going to save this. And what am I going to do? I'm going to start muting the other leads. So that's going to be from here to here. If I hold down Option and Shift and click mute, it's going to mute all of these highlighted over here. So it's Option and Shift will group everything, every click that's highlighted. Okay, so then what I want to do is export this to a bus that I have created that I call the lead. And I'm going to hold down Control. I'm going to, whoops, no, just kidding. I'm going to hold down Option. I'm going to start dragging these plugins up here just so I have the same settings as I did on my lead. And I'm just going to double check. Okay, so this output that I bust out to my lead is going to now go up rather down here to my lead vocal. And this is where I have all my effects. So I have a multi-chain of compressors and EQs, and then that's also going out to some other effects like a plate, Hall effect, a quarter time delay, ping pong, and then some stuff that I use on other channels. Okay, so let's give this a listen.
Bet you didn't think I'd be singing this song right now, did you? Think I wouldn't get back up from years of being put down, mister? Said all the right things 1% of the time, but what about the other 99?
All right, starting to come together. Okay, so I have that. A couple other things I'll do. Maybe on the next one, I'll show you how I just start to really glue everything together. But for the most part, that's it. That's how I approach my vocals. Talk soon. Happy holidays.